So a few weeks ago, Christmas Santa was kind enough to bring Carl some presents. One of those presents was a new Airhawk saddle to replace the old one that he had damaged out in Nova Scotia. Now, that's a great saddle, but he ended up giving me his old one to see if I could fix it. And today I'm going to show you how to repair a hole in that Airhawk saddle. It's pretty interesting. And afterwards, Carl and I are going to take some time out to give you a review and our thoughts on how the Airhawk performs on a DR or any adventure bike, I suppose. So stick around. This should be fun today on Dino's Tinker Shed. These Airhawk saddles are really quite an amazing piece of technology. They're basically a neoprene cover over top of a rubber bladder, and I'll show you that right here. Now this air bladder is actually adjustable. So through this valve right here, you can add or remove air from the bladder. And what happens is these bladders, it's not just one big bladder, it's actually chambered. So as you squeeze on one, the other bladders actually fill up. Now it's a really interesting technology. Now this one, as Carl has said in past videos, has had a pretty rough life. He had this for almost, I think, 10 or 12 years. It's been all over the East Coast. And probably what hurt it the most was the fact that it fell off his bike one day and got run over by a truck somewhere out in Nova Scotia, I think near the Cabot Trail. So he's repaired it a number of times, but what's happening is the inner bladder itself is actually starting to just degrade. And when I looked at it, I noticed there was a few areas along the sidewalls where the rubber itself has just started to separate a little bit, and air is just passing through it. But I think with enough patches I can make it work to try it out. He swears by these Airhawk seats, and if I can get it to work good enough to try, well, I think it's a good thing to do. So let's get to work. Once you get the Airhawk bladder out, you can actually see this valve on the back, and this is used to fill or let air out as you ride. I'm just going to blow this up to get some air in there so that we can try and find where the leak is. Now I remember sitting on this just to see how it felt, because it looks like it's holding air pretty good. But when you sit on it, air was actually coming out right here. Now, you're never going to be able to see this, but all along this one section of the bladder, it's starting to just get old. The rubber's starting to splay apart a little bit there. So I'm going to clean that up and apply a patch to see if I can't get this thing to hold air. I'm sure I'm chasing a fart in the wind here, but we'll see what we can do. Okay, I'll see if I can set the camera up really close so that you can actually see what I'm doing. Give me a minute. This right here is the offending culprit. All of this area in here is starting to actually wear out and crack. The first thing we want to do is clean that area well to get any kind of oils or residues off of it. So I just use some 99% pure rubbing alcohol on that, just to clean the area. And the nice thing about rubbing alcohol is it will take off all of the oils, any of the dirt, but it dries incredibly fast. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this patch repair kit. And this is a fairly substantial patch repair kit. And like any, it comes with things like rubber cement, a braiding pad, let me just get it out here, And that's just to roughen up that area. And then we get an assortment of patches of different sizes and shapes. I'm really thinking I'm gonna glue this one right on there, and it should be pretty good. And you're gonna want a paintbrush like this. And that's just to paint the goober on there. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna start by abrading the area, and we're gonna try to, it doesn't have to be terribly huge, but we're gonna scratch this up. And I'm gonna come right along there as well. And this just gives the rubber a little bit of tooth for the patch to bite into. And I think what I'll do is I'll just move the cover out of the way so we don't get any goo on the cover. Here we go. So that should fit in there. We'll use this one. You can see that it has adhesive on the back that will peel off. The first thing we're going to do is spread some contact cement on here, and we are going to spread this generously over the entire area. And this is what our patch is going to actually stick to. We have to wait for this to tack up, and I want to make sure that I get it so that it covers well beyond the area that the patch is actually going to stick to. So we're going to let that tighten up a little bit, and then we'll come back and put our patch on. As you can see, the rubber cement has tacked up. So we are now going to peel off the back side of this patch, and I'm going to apply it and roll it down the seam there. I don't know if you can see this or not. So I am going to roll it down like that and sort of stick it to the contact cement. So you need to put a fair amount of force on this to get them to stick really well. But it really looks good. And I'm going to actually take a socket here, just a regular old impact socket. I'm going to roll it a little bit on there like a rolling pin to see if I can't get it even better contact. And I'm going to pull off this protective film. We'll see how we've managed. Any of the little spots that are still sticking, we're going to come back and sort of glue them down. So I think that's got it. The repair looks pretty good. I'll let this sit for a little bit. I'll put it back in the seat. And hopefully that should be good. If it isn't, I'll just keep chasing them until I get them all. That feels really good though. I like it. Okay, once you get the bladder back into the cover, it really is easy enough to mount onto the bike. Now for me, I just use these small bungee cords. They're cheap and easily accessible, and they hook on through these loops. Now the seat cover does come with its own mounting hardware, but I find this works really good. And you can see when I sit on it, it actually makes the seat a little bit wider, and that's what really makes it comfortable. Now you will have to adjust it a little bit when you first sit on the bike, and that's where these bungee cords are helpful. You can actually grab the front of the cover and pull it forward on the seat until you find a comfortable spot. Alright, well I've grabbed Carl, and we're going to go for a little bit of a ride here, and then we're going to give you our review on the Airhawk seat cover. So for now, enjoy the beautiful Niagara region. What's your thoughts on these things? I have my opinion, Carl, but you've ridden these a little bit longer than me. So why don't you tell everybody what your thoughts are on the actual seats?
The Airhawk's great, I think. For traveling on the highway, it's great. Just set it and you go. I leave mine loose most of the time in case it rains at night. Say I'm camping or whatever, so I just take it off, put it in a tent. That has its good disadvantages.
Yeah, and I would agree. What I find is it's really comfortable on the highway, but when we get off trail and we start riding into some stuff that's maybe a little bit questionable, I find it's a little jiggly almost.
Yeah.
You sort of float around a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too. I never really rode off-road until I got this bike. And with the Airhawk on, I leave it off most of the time. We go for a short ride, do some gravel and stuff like that. But on a good highway run or long run somewhere, definitely need it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the advantages maybe of the Airhawk is you have that sort of wide sort of plateau that you can sit on the highway. But the nice thing about it is you can take it off really fast, put it in the trunk, and then you've got the stock narrow seat for when you're off-road. Yeah. So it makes the bike a little more nimble. It's really a flexible piece of equipment. That's my thought anyway.
Yeah, I think it's great, and it's repairable if something happens, and it goes bike to bike. Unless you get a different, like, say a Harley or something, maybe it wouldn't fit that style, but a flat seat. Yeah. I had it on the V-Strom, the KLR.
The Triumph too, right?
You rode it on the Triumph. Yeah, had a Triumph Bonneville.
And then moved it onto this.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, and they seem very similar, the old style, the new style. I did manage to get the old one repaired, like it's holding air again, and that's what, 15 or 16 years old now?
Yeah, 2007, I think.
Holy cow.
So, yeah, it's an oldie.
Yeah, so they're a really good seat. It's certainly an option if you're on the fence about putting on an aftermarket seat. I know we talked to a friend of ours the other day who put on a seat concept seat on his DR, and he put the low seat on because he's not a really tall rider, and he said that he actually didn't like the seat concepts because of the sort of the scallop in the back of the seat.
Yeah,
you couldn't slide back.
Slide back in a long haul, yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, I think it's a pretty good option for someone who's looking for a bit more comfort for the longer haul, but still having the flexibility to ride off.
Yeah, and it's somewhat weatherproof too. If it's on, you're raining or something, you're sitting on it, so you're not really absorbed. It deflects the water and that.
And didn't you say you used to tie it on the back to dry it out sometimes too, or is that?
Yeah.
That's good.
It was there with the towel.
With the towel.
Sometimes you got you just forgot it on there. That's why I started putting this loose.
Yeah.
When I got on the bike, I dropped it on the seat and went. But that has its downfalls when you forget it on the trunk and you drive away.
Way it goes, right?
Things happen.
Yeah.
And so but they are fixable and all that. So goes bike to bike.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a really good product that people should probably look at. And think about if they're not satisfied with the stocks.
And that was like I'd say $100. So if you went and got a specialty seat, which is nothing wrong with them, but if you got a seat especially for the DR and paid maybe $300-400 for it, you're kind of a lot of money in it.
Yeah, it's a big investment, right?
So then you get another bike, then when you do the seat, you got to sell the seat or sell the bike. You take another hit. So this thing, bike to bike.
Yeah, that's a good option. People don't maybe think about that,
bike
but for sure.
Definitely.
Okay, well, we're going to ride a little bit more. Thanks again for giving me the old one.
Oh, no
it's
problem.
Working
I
really
hope it
good.
Holds.
Oh yeah, well, I'm putting her to the test. I'm all of 250 plus pounds, so if it can handle my weight, it can just about handle anybody's.
It's good to go then, yeah.
Okay, well, let's go do a little bit more riding today and get on to the next project.
Great.
All right, thanks.